Sting, yes, of course, Sting, the WCW legend, the WWE Hall of Famer, former WCW World Champion, former Impact World Champion, the icon, the franchise. He has officially signed with All Elite Wrestling, making his debut last night on the special Winter Is Coming edition of Dynamite. It was, what a moment. What a moment. There is so much to get into when it comes to Sting because it is a big moment. I know I've seen some people saying that it's not and that it's just another legend coming to another company, getting a big contract, etc., etc. To me, it's just not the case. It's a massive, massive moment. Now, of course, if you weren't watching last night, there was a tag team match where AEW TNT champion Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes took on Team Taz members Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs. Now, Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes won that match, but it was all about what happened after the match, because after the match, a big brawl broke out between Team Taz and the Nightmare family. This included Arn Anderson, Dustin Rhodes came out, of course, Taz, the leader of Team Taz. There was, in addition to that, the FTW champion Brian Cage was in the ring as well. And just as Powerhouse Hobbs went to hit Cody Rhodes once again with the FTW championship, the lights go out. Everyone's confused what's going on, and then none other than Sting makes his way to the ring, makes his grand AEW entrance. There was snow there. It was the whole deal of winter is coming. Winter was coming. Winter is here, and Sting is here in AEW. Now, it was later announced after the show went off the air that Sting has signed a multi-year deal with AEW. He will also speak next week on Dynamite on TNT. Now, of course, Sting, his contract with WWE expired roughly around May of this year. Now, Sting signed with WWE in 2014. Of course, it was the first time that Sting had ever appeared and been under contract with WWE at that period of time. Made his debut at Survivor Series in 2014, had the match against Triple H at WrestleMania 31 in 2015, but he's no longer under contract with the company as of May earlier this year. That got people talking at the time, saying, well, if Sting's not under contract with WWE, could he be heading to AEW in the future? A lot of people, myself included, thought it was pretty much a formality unless WWE gave him a ridiculous offer to stay under contract. But it looked like all the writing was on the wall last month because WWE actually removed all of Sting's merchandise off WWEshop.com this past October. Why that delay? Well, by all accounts, once a WWE contract expires, like it was with Sting, I think it was a Legends deal, I don't think it was a Performer contract or anything like that, there is like a 6-month period, by all accounts, where WWE can still sell the merchandise, or sometimes there can just be an agreement in place between the two parties. You can still sell my merchandise, I can still get a cut of it. Regardless, any images of Sting now no longer exist on WWE.com or WWEshop.com. Now, in terms of wrestling his last match, of course, Sting wrestled his last match for WWE. He last wrestled his match in 2015, where he suffered a career-ending injury during a match with then WWE World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins and Night of Champions. He was then inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame the following year, where he announced his retirement. So what's going on with Sting in AEW now? How do AEW plan to use Sting going forward on Dynamite? Well, it isn't going to be just a cameo deal. It's not going to be a deal where Sting just shows up once in a blue moon. By all accounts, because Sting has signed a multi-year deal with the company and he is going to be appearing, as I mentioned, next week on Dynamite to speak, according to Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer Radio, AEW plans to use Sting as, quote, a regular character on TV and not just a legend making sporadic appearances once in a while. Now, Meltzer noted that AEW wanted to, quote, bring in a star from the old generation of TNT as a regular, since such a move could potentially help draw fans from wrestling fans from yesteryears into watching AEW. Now, the Observer has said that AEW will be incredibly careful when it comes to any form of physicality when it comes to Sting, who is now, of course, 61 years old, and he, quote, won't be taking any bumps, despite being used as a regular character on TV. Now, Meltzer did also say in the event that Sting does any kind of physical stuff, it will be done with the utmost precaution. Now, obviously, this is no surprise. As I mentioned, Sting, at Night of Champions in 2015, he suffered that career-ending injury. It was actually a neck injury. And if you've heard Sting talk about it, if you've heard Sting in any of the documentaries, if you've heard Sting talk about that match with Seth Rollins, I think on the WWE Network, there's a WWE Untold documentary where Sting discusses that match against Seth Rollins and how dangerous it potentially could have been for him. If you watch the documentary on the network, Sting's very open. He says his doctor told him he was centimeters, maybe millimeters away from disaster. He took 2 buckle bombs that night. The first one he took, he lost all feeling in his arms and legs. They went numb. He managed to recover, and he took another one. Even 5 years removed from that, it's madness. But the doctors told him at the time, look, you were very lucky to not only possibly die, but you were lucky you could have been paralyzed. You were lucky to walk away from that situation, essentially. That's what they told him. So ever since then, Sting's career has been over. There was, by all accounts, he could have got surgery to help repair any issues that he had. This surgery would have forced him into retirement. There was rumours at the time, and Sting even did an interview with JBL about it before, saying that he didn't want to get the surgery. It was rumoured that Sting didn't want to get the surgery because he was still holding out for that dream match against The Undertaker, which of course is never going to happen at this point. So I don't know if he's got the surgery or not. Regardless, Sting isn't taking bumps, Sting isn't having matches, Sting isn't doing anything physical when it comes to AEW, and he shouldn't be. He doesn't need to. As the reports mentioned, he is 61 years old. He has no business taking bumps, having matches, getting involved in title feuds or anything like that when it comes to AEW in 2020. He has no business doing that. But he is an absolute massive, massive asset to the show. He's a massive addition to AEW. He's a huge addition to, as Dave Meltzer mentioned, bringing in old fans, lapsed fans, bringing fans over from maybe WWE that are fans of Sting and say, oh, wow, Sting's with AEW. Maybe this is legitimate, okay? I know people want AEW to build new stars. I want AEW to build new stars. But bringing people in like Sting does help facilitate this if they're used in the right way. And the way that AEW has been using legends, absolutely they've been doing it the right way. So very excited for that. Now, after Sting's WWE Legends contract expired in May, WWE pulled all of his merchandise in October. Now, typically, most WWE alumni re-sign their Legends contracts. However, when Sting didn't re-sign his deal earlier this year, the writing was on the wall for him to join AEW, according to Meltzer. Again, not really news. I think everyone knew that was the case. But AEW has gone full out when it comes to Sting in their company now. They've released merchandise, the entrance theme, there's videos or alternate versions or angles of Sting making his debut on Dynamite last night. AEW have also released a full press release talking about Sting's AEW debut, what his plans are to be going forward, so we'll read parts of that out. The big point in it actually says, quote, "The surprise introduction of Sting was a great way to celebrate our biggest episode of Dynamite yet." This was from AEW President Tony Khan. "When AEW was launched, I was ecstatic to bring wrestling back to TNT after a very long absence. Sting defeated the legendary Ric Flair in the final wrestling match to be shown on TNT for more than 18 years until the debut of Dynamite in 2019. Now, almost 2 decades later, it's such a thrill to welcome Sting to AEW and bring him back home to TNT." And that's the main thing here, isn't it? That's the main thing here. And as I mentioned, it's been announced next week that Sting will talk on Dynamite. Is it going to be a long promo? Is he going to explain why he's there? Is he going to team up with someone in terms of become a mentor to someone? Of course, we saw him with Darby Allin there. What's going to happen next with Sting? There is a buzz. There is a massive buzz. It's a big deal. If you're in any doubts about whether or not Sting signing with AEW is a big deal, check social media this morning. Social media is buzzing with the debut of Sting, and that was a very newsworthy episode of Dynamite last night when it comes to Kenny Omega and Impact Wrestling. We're going to be talking about that on the channel today. Of course, we talk about Impact Wrestling all the time here on the channel, so I'm super excited to get into all that stuff later today. But if you look at social media, you know Sting signing with AEW, it's a big deal. And it was a goosebump moment. Credit to AEW with their production quality. I've spoken about this a couple of times now. Their production quality is really high. I think it was a concern for a lot of people. Could AEW be at the same level as WWE when it comes to the production quality of live TV, of music, graphics, and just the overall production of a show? Absolutely. If you had any doubts about that, watch the Sting debut last night because it was shot so well. When it comes to the lights going out, the video package, and this whole Winter Is Coming deal, I think everyone thought that it was about Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley, the Winter Is Coming, and I think that some people sort of thought it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's a Game of Thrones reference, but why does the Winter Is Coming, why does that fit into Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega? And it was almost a bit of a swerve. It had nothing to do with Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley. It had to do with Sting. Sting was the winter that was coming to AEW. It was Sting, and that was the whole promo package that they showed before he came out. The whole video package of the snow and the mountains and the ice, and then when Sting comes out, just the reveal of the Sting name on the graphic I thought was fantastic, so credit to the graphics department for that. The music I thought was good music. AEW has been heavily criticised in the past when it comes to their music not being up to snuff. I thought it was very good. We'll have to hear it a couple more times, but I thought the Sting music, look, I think they tried to go with the WCW theme. I was so annoyed when Sting went to WWE that they didn't use the old Sting WCW theme with the violins. I mean, it's classic Sting, especially when they used it on the WWE 2K adverts, which Sting was in. They used the violins with the choir and all that kind of, the orchestra rather, with all of that there. I was annoyed they didn't do that. The theme last night doesn't have the violins or anything like that, but it's kind of, it has an echo of the Sting theme from WCW, so I enjoyed that. I thought it was done really well. It was done really well. It gave me goosebumps, which is always the good sign. It felt like a big moment. And regardless of what you think, and I know there have been quite a few detractors actually, I think on the whole, there have been mostly positive things about Sting's debut with Dynamite last night and with AEW. There have been mostly people saying that it's huge, it's a big moment for AEW, they're excited, it's a big deal for Sting to come over, be back on TNT for the first time in nearly 20 years, that he belongs there. It's WCW, there's been this talk about WCW Reboot 2021, which is a joke, by the way. But there have been some people doing the joke that AEW is the WCW reboot, and it's kind of true. It's kind of true in the sense that AEW, they're on TNT, they do very much lean into the history of WCW. Tony Khan has been very open, saying that he looked at old episodes of Nitro when he patterns what Dynamite is about. He wants to have that sort of raw feel, and he wants it to be different from WWE, and he was a huge fan of WCW, like a lot of people were in the late 90s. Obviously, they tapered off massively because of the chaos there. But for a period of time, look, they were the number one company in the business. And AEW does feel like a slight rebirth of WCW. And they know there's an audience there for that. There is. The fact that they get over 1 million viewers on DVR every single week, absolutely there's an audience there for that WCW nostalgia, especially on TNT with Tony Schiavone there and all that kind of stuff. So he is still a huge draw. He is still a huge draw, and having him as a regular character, that's a massive deal. That is a massive deal. WWE didn't have him as a regular character. Sting showed up once in the blue moon when he had his WrestleMania feud or his Night of Champions feud with Seth Rollins. That was it. He was not a regular character. The last time he was a regular character was in Impact, but this does feel bigger. This does feel bigger. And I mentioned about some of the criticisms I've seen on social media about this. I have seen this bizarre comparison to Goldberg in WWE. The comparison being that Goldberg comes in, is this legend, and he overshadows all of the young stars, and he holds down the young stars by being put into these main event feuds or storylines, and it's non-existent, that comparison. It's non-existent. Sting isn't going to come in, wrestle 90-second matches and win the world championship twice over the course of a couple years. That isn't going to happen. Sting isn't going to defeat arguably the hottest character in the company in 90 seconds and win the world title. That isn't the case. Sting isn't going to come in now and beat Kenny Omega in a minute and become the world champion and then drop it only a couple of months later in about 90 seconds as well. That isn't going to happen. Those comparisons with Goldberg and Sting just they don't exist. They don't exist. So I can't believe people are making them. Some are. I think it's ridiculous that people are trying to make those comparisons. It's obvious Sting isn't going to wrestle. Why? Because he can't. If he takes a bump, just one bump, if he does any form of physicality, he could be paralyzed. Right? It's no joke. It doesn't stop him being a regular character. On top of that, he's 61 years old. Even if Sting was healthy Sting and in the best physical fitness, at the age of 61, I would still be saying he shouldn't be wrestling a match, let alone with his neck injury and his potentially, life-ending injury, life-threatening injury that he suffered in 2015. So he isn't wrestling for a variety of reasons, his age and his injury. So the Goldberg comparisons are ridiculous. They don't make any sense to me. So what is Sting going to be doing then? Obviously, he's going to be a regular character. It's obvious, I would think, that if he's going to be a regular character, it would mean that he's going to be some form of a manager, a mentor, or a coach, they call him in AEW. We've seen this use of legends in AEW with Arn Anderson, with the Nightmare Family, with Tully Blanchard, with Shawn Spears and FTR, Jake Roberts, Lance Archer, Obviously, their use of legends as well, like Dustin Rhodes and Chris Jericho, is slightly different. But these sort of elderly legends that their in-ring careers are over, they've done it absolutely fantastically. They've done it exactly the way that it should be done. I think WWE has kind of skewed the use of legends at this point with bringing them back and having them beat younger guys, putting them in positions they probably shouldn't be put in. I think a lot of people have praised AEW's use of legends because they have done it right. They've used legends the way they should be used. People's argument that there is no place for legends on modern day programming, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The use of legends is to get younger talent over, and that's what AEW does. Arn Anderson's there to help facilitate getting Cody Rhodes over, or help the Cody Rhodes image. Tully Blanchard has been there to help try and get Shawn Spears over. He's there to add credibility to FTR, being one of the best tag team wrestlers of all time. Jake Roberts is there as a mouthpiece for Lance Archer to help get him over, help the package of Lance Archer. That's how these legends, when they come in, they work. And I think Sting is no different. Is Sting the best promo guy in the world? No. But if he's paired up with Darby Allin, gives Darby Allin instant credibility. How can you have more credibility than getting the endorsement from Sting, one of the biggest stars of all time in professional wrestling? He can also be a mouthpiece. Darby Allin isn't exactly the best promo. I think Sting's probably a better promo than Darby. And it helps Darby's character. Darby's been sitting in the stands alone. That's what Sting did. It all makes so much sense. And pairing Sting with Darby Allin elevates Darby Allin even more. You've given him the TNT Championship to get him to the next level. By pairing him with Sting, that absolutely helps him as well. So, look, Sting belongs on TNT. He does. Wherever he's been, whether it is Impact Wrestling or WWE, it wasn't the feeling of when he was in WCW. WCW was his home. WCW was the creation of Sting. TNT, all of those years on Nitro, it just, or all those years, not just only on TNT, but with Turner, all of those years with Turner Broadcasting, whether it's TBS and the Clash of Champions, all that kind of stuff, that's Sting's home. That is where Sting belongs. It is such a great fit. Being with AEW, being on TNT, possibly being with someone like Darby Allin, it feels like everything's come full circle. And it's fantastic. Does this hurt WWE in the fact that Sting hasn't re-signed? You know, not really, in terms of they're not going to use Sting on regular TV. They're not going to use Sting as a regular character. He was under a Legends deal, which just basically means if WWE wanted to bring him back for a Raw reunion or something, they could. It also means that if WWE wanted to use his merchandise or bring him in for interviews for the WWE Network, they could do that as well. Does it hurt WWE in that point of view? No, it doesn't, because they weren't using him anyway. Does it hurt WWE because they're strengthening their competitors? Yes, it does. Because, look, the fact that it shows what Sting's a big deal. If Sting suddenly appeared on NXT and Sting was a regular character on NXT, everyone would be going wild. Going, well, this is a big statement of intent by WWE. This is a sign WWE wants to fight back against AEW and bring some ratings in on Wednesdays. That's how a big deal it is to have Sting on Wednesday nights on Dynamite. So it would have been that it does hurt WWE in that point. In the terms of being a regular character, he wasn't on WWE TV anyway. In terms of the Wednesday Night Wars, it's going to bring viewers. It's going to bring viewers, no doubt. So it got a big pop, even with the limited audience that was there. It still got a massive reaction. Go back and watch it. The reaction was actually quite loud considering the lack of people there. It's a big moment. It's a big moment. And yes, it's nostalgia, but even at the age of 61, Sting does have something to offer AEW. Sting being on TV every single week for AEW Dynamite, it's a massive deal. We haven't seen Sting on weekly television since he was with Impact, and we really haven't seen him as a regular character on live television every single week since probably WCW. And I know, yes, when he was with Impact, Impact was live weekly for a while, so that's probably true, but that didn't really last that long, and it didn't go very well, to be honest. So Sting being a regular character on TNT, live every week, it's huge. It's huge. And yes, it's an evolution, but like I said, it feels like everything's coming full circle. It will benefit AEW massively, just in terms of merchandise, recognition, buzz on social media. It will bring people over. People next week will be excited to see what Sting says. Next week already feels like a must-see show, doesn't it? We want to see what's next with Sting, and obviously with all the stuff with the World Championship. So some people will roll their eyes. Some people roll their eyes when it comes to nostalgia. Some people will roll their eyes because they don't like legends being brought back. They're taking the spot of the young guys. I thought it was done perfectly. Obviously, there was less talking. The best thing about Sting is that when he is silent, when he's that brooding figure, for me, that's the best version of Sting. So I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to see what happens next week when it comes to Sting in and he said WCW in AEW. But what were your thoughts? Of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Sting's AEW debut last night? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, chatting about AEW here on the channel. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button. It really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.